2-minute synopsis, please?
Yeah, sure. Well, so the biggest thing that's in the news right now is that it was a two-gender thing. And that's not entirely accurate. I did say that biologists don't agree that there's more than two genders, but the way that it happened in class was the video that she played of Paula Stone Williams speaking was mainly about male privilege and how women have it harder in the workplace and pretty much in the world at large, talking about systemic sexism, making allusions to the gender pay gap. And those were the things that I initially brought up whenever I interjected into the conversation. And that the fact that it was all anecdotal, it was a completely anecdotal account, as most of these things normally are when they have no statistics or even if there's no studies or whatever. So I said that, it's anecdotal evidence, the gender wage gap has been disproven with people that are inside, men and women in the same job, same experience, working the same amount, normally make almost the same, sometimes women can make more, it can vary. And then that's when I brought up the fact that biologists don't agree that there's more than two genders. What really that means is that they don't believe that it's not, that there is biological determinism in behavior and traits of men and women. That's like the biggest discussion. They say there's no connection between the brain and the body. It's actually not true. Most behaviors can be determined through biology. So that's relevant. Also, very relevant. The next day, I met with the professor to discuss an upcoming project, and we had agreed to do that the night before, and it seemed like we were, on decent terms when that class concluded. And then the next morning, she gives me these two pieces of paper explaining one, the things that she's accusing me of, and two, that I have to sign this and stand in front of the class and apologize in silence for, not being able to accept the reality of white male privilege and sexism, etc. One line of that accusation said that I told her explicitly that any negative grade I received from then on out would be evidence of her personal prejudice, and I'd never said those words. I mean, you can infer them maybe from the fact that we disagree with things, but I never said that, and I would never think that. I mean, maybe she will, maybe she has, but I mean, I never made that a point of discussion ever. And I asked her to remove that line, and then I would sign the rest. Like I said, if you take that out, I'll sign it. I mean, the reality of white male privilege, I don't think it's a reality. Denying trans experience, I don't think I did that. But sure, if you want me to stand in front of the class and apologize for hurting someone's feelings, fine, just remove the blatant lie. And she said no. And I said, well, can you quote me? Do you have any evidence? And she said, well, I decide what gets said. What you said. I'm the authority, essentially, in the situation. That'll be like, this is what you said, not me. I don't get to say what I said. And then after that, I was like, well, I think you are abusing your intellectual power in this case and wielding this sort of information in class to get a certain ideology across. Indoctrinating is how it's normally phrased. And she asked me to leave. And that was that. And she told me I had 10 days to sign this paper. So it's not like I went home and I was like, oh no, what am I going to do now? I was just like, okay, well, do I sign this paper in the way it's phrased and just get over it and get back to class? Do I tell someone about it? Do I reach out to, the ACLU, which I thought about doing at that point, but, I was like, give it some time, you have the weekend, you have 10 days to worry about it, like, you don't have to do anything yet. Because I didn't believe in what she was asking me to do at all. I was not for it, but I could see, I didn't want to make a huge deal out of it. But then she, that's when she made the final push the next day to have me removed permanently.
Wow. So it wasn't in the initial class where you were arguing with her and she was just, get out?
No, yeah, she didn't throw me out. She said I could leave if I wanted to.
That became the presumption over time,
right,
that you were just thrown out right away. And as you probably know, the media attention was one-sided.
Oh, yeah.
So do you think that the media attention going towards you created, rumors and whatnot? The fact that the university hadn't responded, do you think that escalated the situation?
Well, first, the way the media approached it, I definitely think that they painted the story one way. They wanted it to be about the two-gender thing, because maybe that it gets more attention, and it is an issue. Like, that is a thing that's like really pervasive in universities and workplaces, legislation, so it's really very relevant. And yeah, but the way they characterize me getting kicked out, it does seem like, I said 2 genders, and she was like, get out, that's essentially how it seemed. But as far as the university not responding, what do you mean?
How the university didn't go to the media.
Oh, right. Well, I don't know would the university go to the media in that sort?
The university had the option to.
The option to?
They had the option to, and they used FERPA as a shield to say that they can't say anything, to say that the professor can't say anything, but no one could have told her not to comment on her classroom.
Right.
What is protected under FERPA is entered quiz grades.
Right.
Even handing out the test to the room upside down, they might think they have to do that, but it's just a formality.
Right.
And Frank Delore or whatever, sorry, I always forget his name, but when he came here to speak, he said that most FERPA violations are nothing of the sort. It's actually just a document-based. You ever heard of going to the principal's offices and him adding something to your permanent record?
Yeah.
That is protected under FERPA.
Wow.
So, can you please make a definitive statement for me about it not being immediate and it not being about 2 genders?
Well, I don't think that it's not about 2 genders.
Well, no, not like, but the
I
fact
wouldn't say that it's weighted
towards
purely
that.
on that,
Okay.
right? Yeah, definitive statement. She didn't kick me out right away. She did tell me that if I didn't quiet down, that she was going to have to ask me to leave. She essentially wanted me to stop my line of not questioning. She wanted me to, end my statements for, I'm sure a number of reasons, or get out. She was like, if you don't stop talking, you need to leave. And I told her, I was like, if you feel that I should go, you can go ahead and tell me to leave. You can kick me out. And she said she would leave it up to me. And I was like, okay, well, at that point I'd said pretty much everything I needed to say or felt that I should say. And then I was silent the rest of the class, and I just sat there.
Okay.
So she did motion for me to leave, sort of informally.
She motioned for you to leave informally, and then the next day you received, or the next class day, it was the next day you received the two pieces of paper?
The next day, yes, but she had the thing where she wanted me to apologize in front of the class, give her a handwritten apology or a written apology, and then if I didn't do that, then I won't be able to return to class. But I had 10 days, so.
Yeah, wow. So how did you feel about President Driscoll's email?
Right. So I expected somewhat, because of the attention and because of the way that the decision from the Academic Integrity Board could have gone, I kind of expected sooner or later that somebody was going to go over, some higher authority was going to come in over top of the situation and say, we're deciding what's going to happen, or what he did, which is just throw it out entirely, more or less, though it's still technically he reserves the right to reopen it. So I was relieved, but I was also kind of confused because I was told by the provost office I could go back to class in a letter the previous Friday. So, and I called the office because I was like, oh man, I'm back in, like they decided. And I called Dr. Moreland and I said, hey, does this mean that they ruled in my favor? And he said, no, this is totally separate. You just have to go back until they make the decision. And I'm like, well, the decision's Monday, that's the first class back, so this is kind of a pointless email. So I was like really confused and thrown off. And then in his email he said that Lake was instructed that he could go back to class, he should do so. So it's kind of like I'm halfway good. It's like, okay, well, the president's saying the case is stopped. Moreland says I can go back until the decision's made. This decision isn't going to get made, so I'm back in permanently. You know what I mean? So it's very vague, and they're playing their cards close to the chest, and I don't blame him because, if he rules in my favor, he kind of turns his loyalty away from his own staff in fear of whatever, or he turns his back on the student, me, and then risks it blowing up even more. So he kind of had to toe the line, and I don't blame him because I don't think we should have even had to have gone to the extent that it did. I wouldn't have gone to the media if I wasn't, my graduation and thousands of dollars weren't on the line. I wouldn't have had to do any of that. So he was right in his paper in his email that if this situation would have been handled with a lot less anxiety and emotion, that it would have been, better.
Wow. Could you restate that last part again, the anxiety and emotion part?
Well, it's his wording. I'm paraphrasing.
No, I know. Explain how you feel about the anxiety and emotion part.
Well, I don't think that. I think Dr. Downey was acting a little bit too extreme by trying to have me thrown out. That was too much. I mean, this is one of my only required classes of like the last remaining course load, remainder of my course load, and there's like 4 or 5 weeks left, and I'm an active student in the class, and all the professors tell me that even though I disagree with them, it helps class, and she is going to throw me out because I deny the gender wage gap and the legitimacy of the gender bender fluidity, doctrines. Like, come on. Just because what? Because I wanted you to take one line out of the accusations you made? One line? That isn't even true? And even if it is, you can't, meet me where in the middle? Like, the accusations were overblown to begin with. And I could have argued that. I could have said, well, angry outbursts, intolerant, whatever, denying transgender experience. Sure, make an argument for it, but that last line, there was no reason for that to be in there.
Do you deny transgender?
The experience?
Yes.
No, I just deny that there is no connection between the female body, the female brain, the male body, the male brain. Like, they're connected. That's where the transgender movement has been pushing right now. It's going towards, just because you're born a male doesn't mean your brain has to be male. You can be a biological male, but your brain could be something totally different. And I think what that stems from is that the social constructs, as they would call them, the humanities mostly, postmodernists would call them, impose a type of behavior that is an epitomized behavior that's acceptable for a man and a woman. Obviously, it's like man dresses like this, he walks like this, he talks like this, he does this on the weekends with his buddies. Same for women. And obviously, not everyone falls into that category perfectly in both sexes or genders, obviously. But to say that there's no connection at all between the way that males are biologically and the way they behave, and then the way females behave in their biology, and say that it's all an imposed, it's a structure that was imposed on them, and that's why they do it, that's just, it's insane, and it's biologically, it's not supported. The science it's not supported scientifically. So that's the only way that I would deny trans experience. Do I believe someone can be a male and want to be a woman, or believe they are a woman, or think more like a woman, and that makes them want to dress like one or transition to one? Yeah, that's totally normal. That's not, well, maybe not normal, it's considered gender dysmorphia. But to say that it isn't something that they can do, no, it's their freedom to do so. I mean, there's people that, there's a comedian I like who characterized it like this. There's people that have OCD and then have to tap their fingers 6 times before they turn on the light switch. That means they have OCD. Does that mean that everyone else should believe that we should be tapping our fingers 6 times, before we flip on a light switch, or that that's the reality that every human should live by? No. So don't try to tell me that just because there's trans people that me being a man is all social structure. It's that's how it's all been getting wrapped up.
So you're denying the fact that every male brain could
Possibly be a female brain, right?
Yeah.
So are you born a blank slate in your brain? You have a penis, you have a vagina, you have testicles, you have a uterus, you have ovaries, you have whatever, mammary glands, etc. You have all these different things that make you maybe distinguish if you're a man or a woman anatomically. But the brain then it's left up to whomever. Now it is left up to some sort of chance on a spectrum. You might be more feminine, you might be more masculine. That could be because of the way you're raised. It could be because of your biology. It could be because of your genes, whatever. But they've taken it so far to where it's no, that they can be, everyone can be everything, right? But it's it's all determined by what happens after they're born, which is insane. It's not true.
Yeah, of course. No, I couldn't. I actually feel the same way about that. That's the biggest thing that came up to me when I heard the story is, well, if he's truly standing in front of that room of people and saying, no, if you're transgender, you're lying to yourself, then I would have disagreed. But I also feel that it's just a disposition. It's like it's what you choose and you go into it.
Right.
But yeah, you seem a lot more tolerant than the negative media attention has painted you.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's understandable.
The rumors that circulate, the things that I've heard that you've said in class are just, and just talking to you now, you'd have to be the best actor I know, or you'd actually have to be pretty tolerant and just trying to weigh in on your opinions in class.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I totally agree. There's the negative attention that I've gotten from people that aren't, students and people in the public. I think it's all wrapped up into the same reason why Dr. Downey felt that she needed to go to the lengths that she did. I think it's because of intolerance of its own. It's like, well, and this is regardless of this situation, people's beliefs can be so ensconced in them that anything they hear that objects to them drives them nuts. Try telling a creationist who believes the world is 2,000 years old that Darwinian theory has some legitimacy. They'll be like, no way, no, it can't happen. And then what do you do when someone says something that attacks your beliefs and you can't face the arguments head on? You go after the person that's saying them. So let's just demonize the person saying them so that everything he says is delegitimized and the facts, whatever arguments he presents, mean nothing. All these guys that are coming to campus getting called white supremacists, Nazis, homophobic, xenophobic, anti-Semitic. It's just a way of delegitimizing the characters so that their words have less pull, and that also goes into intersectionality, which is a whole other issue. But I think it's related to that.